Max alert in DMV, the rookie linebacker time bomb is activated. One mistake in September and goodbye playoffs. Why is Dan Quinn betting everything on a raw project while McLaurin asks for a trade? Because there's a diabolical plan. Turn Daniels into the NFC assassin using the versatile WR they hid all July. Rival coordinators already fear their telepathic connection. But here's what no one wants to tell you. If the rookie linebacker doesn't learn to read offenses in 25 days, our defense will collapse and Daniels' window will close. You decide, subscribe now to discover how Ken Norton Jr. is secretly shaping the rookie, or miss out when we reveal the info that made Kingsbury turn down 3 head coach offers. The countdown has begun, Commander. Let me be clear with you from the first second. Madrono just experienced the most intense roller coaster I've seen in years for a Commander's rookie, and I believe this is exactly what we needed to see to understand where we stand with this 2025 6th-round draft pick. Now I ask you, did you see what happened at Gillette Stadium against the Patriots? Because I did, and I'll tell you exactly what I observed. This kid reached the point of contact with an explosiveness that reminded me why Dan Quinn and his staff chose him with pick number 205, overlooking other available edge rushers. Look, when you have a linebacker who can move with that change of direction agility, when you see that speed we all remember from his UCLA days shining in specific moments, you understand why the scouts saw something special. 3 tackles in his professional debut aren't numbers that will appear on SportsCenter, but the way he executed them, that natural explosiveness to reach the ball carrier, that tells you something about the potential we're managing. But here's the reality no one wants to hear, and I'm going to serve it to you unfiltered. The mistakes were brutal, folks, and I'm not talking about small technical adjustments that are corrected with repetitions. I'm talking about defensive fundamentals that make you question if this kid is ready for the rotational responsibilities demanded by the NFL. Madrono's defensive anticipations are in their infancy period. When it comes to reading pre-snap plays, when you need to anticipate offensive movements, this guy is arriving late to the party, and those angles against the run that haunted him since UCLA appeared like ghosts at the most inopportune moment. In college, you might have been able to rely on superior athleticism to compensate, but here everyone is elite athletes. And that hesitation before reacting that might have worked in the Pac-12, buddy, in the NFL, they devour you alive for that. Because while you're thinking, the running back already gained 3 extra yards and the tight end already completed his route. The difference between college and professional timing is abysmal, and Madrono learned it the hard way. Dean Jones from Rigo's Rag described it perfectly when he said that he might have gotten away with it before, but that won't be the case. At the pinnacle of the sport, and I completely agree, because in the NFL, you can't afford doubt. You can't afford those microseconds of indecision that went unnoticed in college. Now, before some of you start panicking, thinking we wasted a draft pick, I believe this was exactly what we expected. Ken Norton Jr. knows this player better than anyone after working with him at UCLA, and he knows we're talking about a long-term project, not an immediate solution, not a rookie who's going to change our defense from day one. Look at the depth we have in the linebacker room. Bobby Wagner remains one of the best middle linebackers in the league. Frankie Louvu showed last year that he can be that versatile piece you need. And while Jordan McGee recovers from his injury issues, we have Nick Bellore as our special team specialist and Duke Riley, who was signed specifically to fill the gap, left by Dominique Hampton after his disappointing performance that cost him the roster. This means Madrono has time. He has the luxury to develop without the pressure to contribute immediately. And when you analyze his profile, when you see he's a high-character player with unquestionable work ethic, when you confirm he's extremely coachable according to all reports since arriving in Washington, you start to understand the long-term vision. You know what I like most about this situation? That the coaching staff isn't trying to force his development. They're using him mainly on special teams during his rookie season, letting him gain experience gradually while developing other areas of his game in practice. That's the smart way to handle raw talent with high ceiling potential. And here's the key many are overlooking. When you have Ken Norton Jr. as your linebackers coach, someone who already worked with this kid in college and knows exactly his strengths and weaknesses, the development process speeds up significantly. Norton knows which buttons to press. He knows how to maximize that exceptional athleticism while working on the technical aspects that need refinement. What I'm about to tell you now has implications far beyond what it seems on the surface. And I need you to understand each layer of this situation because we're witnessing a dynamic that may define the future of our franchise. Dan Quinn just admitted something that should worry and excite all Commanders fans at the same time. And he did it in a way that tells me this coaching staff is handling this Terry McLaurin situation with more strategic intelligence than I initially thought. It turns out while Terry McLaurin holds in and continues asking for that trade, we all know about, Quinn found what he calls an upside. And I tell you, this is revealing on multiple levels. More connection time between Deebo Samuel and Jaden Daniels during practices. Now I ask you, do you understand the implications of this? Because while McLaurin is technically present at facilities but not fully participating due to his contractual dispute, Samuel is taking advantage of every rep, every practice snap, every timing drill to build that almost telepathic chemistry you need to have with your quarterback in this league. John Keane from ESPN reported Quinn's exact words. An unintended consequence of not having McLaurin on the field is it's meant more time for Deebo Samuel and Jaden Daniels to connect. Quinn called it an upside. And when the head coach is being so specific with his words, when he's using terms like unintended consequence, it tells me there's a deeper strategy here. But let's be honest about what we're seeing in this situation. McLaurin, at 29 years old, comes off another 1,000-yard season, his 6th consecutive since being drafted in 2019. 13 receiving touchdowns last season, almost double his previous best mark, and more than a third of his total touchdowns in 6 years of his career. This isn't just any receiver asking for money. This is a legitimate WR1 in his prime, asking to be compensated as such. When McLaurin asked for $30 million per year to enter the top 10 highest paid receivers in the league, it's not unreasonable based on his production. 5 seasons with 77 or more receptions, over 1,000 yards in each of those seasons, and that reliability that becomes the perfect escape valve for any quarterback, especially for a young quarterback like Daniels. But here's the dilemma the organization faces, and I think Quinn understands it perfectly. Do you want to pay a receiver $30 million a year when he's going to be in his 30s during that contract? It's the million-dollar question dividing the Commanders' front office. Meanwhile, Samuel, also 29, comes from San Francisco with a completely different profile. His best season was 77 receptions, and that's still the only time he surpassed 60 receptions in a season. In pure receiver numbers, he doesn't compare to McLaurin's consistency. But here's what Samuel brings that McLaurin can't offer. Total versatility that changes offensive schemes. 1,143 rushing yards in his career. And 20 rushing touchdowns, just 2 less than his total receiving touchdowns. This means when Samuel is on the field, the defense can't be sure if he's going to run a route, receive a handoff, execute a jet sweep, or serve as a decoy in a completely different play. And that versatility combined with Cliff Kingsbury's offensive creativity could create opportunities that didn't exist with McLaurin as our main WR1. Not because McLaurin isn't a better receiver, because he is, but because Samuel opens dimensions of the playbook that McLaurin simply can't execute due to his physical profile and skill set. But here are the legitimate concerns about Samuel that we can't ignore. His physical conditioning and health have been topics of conversation in San Francisco. When a player has a history of problems staying on the field consistently, when there are doubts about his ability to maintain a production level throughout a full 17-game season, those are red flags that don't disappear simply because he changed uniforms. And here's the uncomfortable reality Quinn probably won't admit publicly. We need McLaurin on the field if we want to repeat or surpass what we achieved last season. Samuel can be that perfect complementary piece, that versatile weapon that confuses defenses, but he hasn't proven he can be the reliable WR1, the safety blanket, the type of receiver who can win one-on-one consistently when you need it most. Think Quinn is being smart to show public optimism about the situation, because what else can he do? But if I'm honest with you, if we analyze this situation coldly, we're seeing an organization that might be betting its competitive window on the hope that a receiver with a conditioning issue history can replace the production of one of the most reliable receivers in the league. Season opens on September 7th at home against the Giants. And whether McLaurin is on the field or not, Quinn will have to prove that this upside he sees really translates into wins when it matters. And now we come to the news confirming what we all already knew but needed to hear from official sources. The people who really matter in this league. The coaches, the executives, and the general managers who study this sport for a living. The Athletic and ESPN surveys have placed Jayden Daniels where he belongs, among the elite quarterbacks in this league. And I tell you, these aren't media rankings looking for clicks. These are professional evaluations from people who bet their careers on evaluating talent correctly. Let me be specific with you about these numbers because they are absolutely historic for any quarterback, but especially for someone coming off their rookie season. In The Athletic, Daniels was ranked as a second-level quarterback, receiving 31 votes for that category and 17 votes for the first level. Nico Marshall of LBL Sports confirms this is a record for a rookie quarterback coming off their first season. Think about this for a second. 17 NFL coaches, executives, and general managers voted to put Daniels in Tier 1 alongside Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Matthew Stafford after just one season. That's elite recognition that goes beyond statistical numbers. And in ESPN's Jeremy Fowler's list, Daniels ranked 5th overall among all quarterbacks in the league. 5th. In the entire NFL, after just one season. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about how this league views our quarterback, then I don't know what else could convince you. Now I tell you this, when you have defensive coordinators telling The Athletic that Daniels is a 2 with an arrow up, ice when they're admitting he can run, can throw accurately, and is really calm. When they confess that the pressure isn't too big for him, and it's easy to see when you play against him that he doesn't get desperate. You're talking about elite recognition from those who professionally study the game. Those aren't comments you make about a quarterback who got lucky during a season. Those are comments you make about someone who showed he belongs at this level, who displayed the mental and physical qualities that separate good quarterbacks from great quarterbacks. But here's what really excites me about these rankings. What tells me we're seeing something special? An offensive coordinator told ESPN that Daniels led one of the worst franchises to the NFC Championship game as a rookie with a bad defense, one legitimate receiver, and a dinosaur tight end. Those are words that hurt but reflect exactly the truth about what this young man accomplished with the limited resources he had. And that assessment is devastatingly accurate. Look at the roster Daniels had last year. Terry McLaurin as his only truly elite receiver. An offensive line that improved during the season but started with questions. A defense that had moments but also games where it simply couldn't stop anyone. And a tight end room that frankly didn't scare anyone. With those limitations, Daniels produced numbers we now know impressed the entire league. 3,568 passing yards, 25 touchdowns, only 9 interceptions. And those passing numbers don't tell the whole story because add 891 rushing yards and 6 rushing touchdowns, and you start to understand why defenses didn't know how to prepare to face him. But here are the statistics that really matter. The ones that tell me Daniels doesn't just have the numbers, but also the clutch factor that separates the good from the great. 5 fourth quarter comebacks. 5 as a rookie. In his first NFL season, when you have the mental capacity to remain calm in the tensest moments, when you can execute under maximum fourth quarter pressure with the game on the line, that's not something taught. That's something you have or you don't have, and Daniels clearly has it. And now with the additions of Deebo Samuel via trade and Laramie Tunsil to strengthen that offensive line, plus another year working with Cliff Kingsbury, developing that chemistry and system understanding. Expectations are sky high, and I believe they're justified expectations. Kingsbury decided to decline head coach interview opportunities to stay in Washington, another year working with Daniels. That tells you everything you need to know about how the offensive coordinator himself sees the potential of this quarterback. When a coordinator turns down the chance to be head coach to keep developing a specific quarterback, you're seeing something special. The question everyone is asking now, the question I think is completely legitimate after seeing these rankings, is this. Can Daniels make the leap to Tier 1 this season? Can he compete in that conversation with Mahomes, Allen, and Jackson? And I say that based on what we've seen so far, based on the improved resources he'll have this season, based on the recognition he's already receiving from coaches and executives around the league. I believe not only can he make that leap, but he's going to make it 5 primetime games for the Commanders this season. The NFL doesn't schedule 5 primetime games for teams they don't expect to be nationally relevant. They're betting that Daniels in this offense will be must-see TV, and honestly, after seeing these rankings, after confirming how the league views our quarterback, I think that bet will pay off. The comparison with CJ Stroud is inevitable. Stroud had an incredible rookie season and then faced that famous sophomore slump with the Texans last year. But I believe Daniel's situation is different because his mental processing, his ability to read defenses and adjust under pressure, those are qualities that don't rely solely on the rookie season surprise element. Look, after analyzing everything we've just covered, I ask you these direct questions. Do you think Madrono has what it takes to become a key piece of our defense in the future? Do you agree that McLaurin's situation can benefit long term? Chemistry between Samuel and Daniels. And the most important, do you consider that Jaden Daniels should already be in that first-level quarterback conversation alongside Mahomes and Allen? This is exactly the kind of debates that make our Commanders community great. Here, we don't just report news, we analyze it, dissect it, and build that passion that unites us as a Burgundy and Gold family. If these conversations excite you as much as they do me, if you want to be part of these deep analyses every week, then you need to subscribe right now. Like this video if you think Daniels deserves to be in that elite conversation, and let me know in the comments which of these 3 news stories impacted you the most. Because at the end of the day, you are the ones who make it possible for us to keep bringing this exclusive content and these analyses you won't find anywhere else. And remember, hail to the Redskins.